Guys, it's Phil coming back at you with another video. Today, I'm excited, I'm pumped up, I'm back, and I'm just so grateful for all the support that you guys show me, and hopefully you guys have been taking care of your guys' self-practice and self-care, getting the job done, building your guys' self up, becoming the best possible version of yourself that you can, and I know for a fact 32 people have done just that because they walked in the exam, kicked it directly in the chest, got the job done, and passed their exams, and now they're living their best life and pushing past all the doubt that they previously experienced, and they are as follows. Becky F, Electra B, Yada J, Christina S, Lisa N, Jessica A, Tanya G, Tina R, Haley A, Amy S, Michelle K, Almeida V, Karina M, Christine J, Peace A, Roy N, Emily D, Joanne W, Florina C, Misha M, Elise C, Jennifer R.I., Dulcie G, Lisbeth D, James W, Daisy M, Alex A, Jamie F, Glenn G, Sharonda G, Aaron J, and Yolanda B. So excited, man, because there's so many people on that list that were second-guessing themselves, doubting themselves, saying, hey, am I doing the right thing, or should I do more, or should I reschedule, or should I push it back, and should I do all of these things, and it pains me, and that's what this video topic is going to be, is how do you push past self-doubt, and how do you get to the other side of building yourself up and getting the job done and walking past the negative self-talk, putting those blinders on and putting those earmuffs on so that way you can become the best possible version of yourself. And if you're like, Phil, I want to rep and rock with you. I want to make sure that I can get the best possible thing that I can. I love the energy. I love what you're doing. I want to be on that list. Then the easiest way to do that are going to be the Sunday study groups, and that's every single Sunday from 7 until whenever they kick us out Eastern time. And if you're not able to attend the sessions live, it is possible to get the recording of those sessions. And the next ones that are coming up are as follows. 221, Human Developmental Theories, 228, Defense Mechanisms, 3.7, Community Interventions, and 3.14, Practice Questions. And if you were in a practice question session prior to that, it's going to be new questions because I don't believe in reusing questions so that way everyone can possibly benefit. And if you're like, Phil, how in the heck do I get into those study groups? You can send me an email at berda24@gmail.com or click the description down below and it'll direct you to my calendar and you'll be all set from there. And if you're like, Phil, I think I missed the topic of the study group that I wanted to see or I wanted to watch that, then you can send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. And you can get an access of all the library of the previous study groups that I can, so you can submit payment for those, as well as if you're like, Phil, are you doing a one-day course this month? I'm not really doing it, and I kind of feel bad for not doing it, but I'm a huge proponent of practicing what you preach, and for those that know, I'm going to be teaching the course at U of M in the next coming week, so I want to utilize as much time as I possibly can to make sure it's the best possible version of that I can possibly give, because I'm a huge proponent of not just securing opportunities, but making sure that you make the most out of the opportunities that you can, but don't get it twisted because you will be able to get the previous recorded one-day course that I did in January, so if you want information about that, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, as well as I do still offer individual tutoring. I just book out 4 to 5 weeks in advance, so if your exam is before then, you can send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, and I can add you to the waiting list. But if you're after that, you're in the green, and you should be able to schedule, so click the link down below in the description as well. And it always pains me to push people away or not be able to help as much as I possibly can, and I'm still trying to find alternatives and ways to make sure that you guys can still get as much benefit and help as you possibly can, because it's not a good feeling as a social worker, as a person that likes helping, to turn people away but not be able to help. So I'm still looking at different ways that I could possibly benefit or mitigate some of the barriers that exist currently, because I'm still doing my full-time job, I'm still doing this, and I'm still trying to do lectures and opportunities and situations and still have a life at some point in time. So I appreciate every single person that is repping and rocking with me. And for those that do not know, Audible has continued to agree to sponsor both my YouTube videos and my podcast. So if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. It's the easiest way to support me, and it costs you absolutely nothing. And For those that are like, Phil, I always hear that you talking about Audible. What is Audible? Audible is an easy way to get information and gain knowledge on the go. So if you're busy just like me and you want to still become the best possible version of yourself, Audible is an easy way to make sure that you can get that done by listening to audiobooks on the go. So again, if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gap. Sign up for the 30-day free trial, and it's a super duper easy way to get knowledge and information and support me all in one package. And if you're like, Phil, I'm going to sign up for the 30-day free trial right now, but I'm not sure what book to get. I'm not really that much of a reader, or I've read all the books that I want to read. There are a couple that I would recommend, and they are as follows: The Alchemist, The Power of Habit, The Archer, and Outliers. Each of them are going to have different lessons that you can utilize personally and professionally, so that way you can grow in all areas of your life. And I appreciate every single person that has signed up for that already. From the bottom of my heart, the Fill in the Gaps community blows my mind every single time with how much you guys support and rep and rock and share my name with other people. And if you did not know, I do have a podcast. I've rose it from the dead, and it is on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify, and it's at Fill in the Gaps. And from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate all the support that you guys show me. If you have any questions or concerns, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. And if you pass your exam and want me to share your name, just send me an email as well. And the topic that I'm going to be going over today is just how do you push past negative self-talk or self-doubt? Because I've been hearing a lot about it. It's like, Phil, I failed my exam, or I'm ready to walk into my exam. I'm not really sure what I should do. What do I need to do to prepare? There's so many different styles. There's so many different strategies. There's so many different techniques. I'm not really sure what I should be doing in particular. And it just blows my mind, because I'm like, you're such an amazing person and social worker and have such gifts, talents, and all these abilities. And this exam, or maybe self-doubt, or just situations or people have taken you outside of what you know to be true. So I'm going to be providing some strategies and techniques that I would recommend to help. And I know these videos aren't always people's favorite, but I'm speaking to a particular group of people today, and that's if you're feeling like you're alone or you don't have what it takes to walk into the exam and get the job done, you do have what it takes. So my first recommendation for people that are struggling with self-doubt or even negative self-talk or just letting things all interject is be yourself. Be you. So many times people are preparing for this exam or preparing for an opportunity or a gig in their situation, and they just have so many people trying to plant seeds in their life and plant these ideas and tell them that they should do this particular thing. But at the end of the day, it does not matter what people are doing. It matters what you specifically need and what strategy and technique specifically works for you or what you need for your situation. And this, what blows my mind, is people say, well, I'm repping and rocking with this video, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, but I'm doing this strategy over here, and this person tried selling me a program, and I bought that program, and now I'm buying this other program, and I'm doing this other program. Phil, do you have something that could help me as well? And it's like, do any of these things actually work for you? So when your self-doubt or negative self-talk are coming in, it may be that you're having a triggered response of, I'm not doing what I specifically need for myself, so I have to start listening to my needs. And that's why they're called needs, because you need that information in order to navigate your situation. Because when there's information, not all good information is good. So for example, if you were to plant a flower, if you do not tend or mend to it and just let it go and let other people plant their stuff around it, there's inherently going to be weeds, and those weeds can actually kill your process. And what does that look like? Because there are a lot of times people are like, Phil, I have this material, or I have that book you always talk about, or I have this and all of this and all of this and all of this. And it's like, but what specifically works for you? And you have to have that strategy and technique, because what happens when you walk into the exam with all these different strategies and all these different techniques, you are going to try them all on questions, or you're going to conveniently pick the one that meshes with the answer that you already think it is. So a couple of myths that are happening is, I should only read the last sentence, or every time I see CPS in the question, I should do this, or every time I see APS in the question, I should do this, or every time there's any glimpse of abuse, I should always go with that answer. So if you go into this exam already telling the questions what the answer is, you've already lost. And why have you lost? Because if you're already telling the exam what the answer is, then it should be a fill-in-the-blank exam, because you're already saying, all right, I'm going to find the answer that aligns with what I think it is, not even read the details on the question. You're wrestling more with the answers or trying to affirm the answers in the situation rather than actually reading the question, breaking it down, navigating the process, and getting the job done. So that's what I mean is being you. And as social workers, people will love giving you materials, or will love sharing their opinion, or they'll love trying to do something in their situation to make themselves feel better. But at the end of the day, you have to do specifically what works for you. And if anything I've shared or any materials or techniques that I do that aren't helpful for you, then don't use them. I'm somebody that's not trying to just get people to do what I do. I want them to be 100% them. So my goal is not for people to get 100% on practice questions or get 100% on anything. I want them to be 100% themselves and follow a process and routine and strategies that work specifically for them. And how does this feel into negative self-talk or negative doubt? Because if you're doing a strategy that doesn't work for you and you're getting questions incorrect, you're almost telling yourself, I can't trust myself. And then when you're getting the question wrong, you're thinking, what's wrong with me? Rather than what's wrong with the strategies and techniques that are being put into your situation. So that's the push for you, is you have to be 100% you in order to get the results that are 100% destined for you. And if somebody's telling you, well, this person's doing this strategy and it worked for them, good. I'm glad that they passed their exam. I'm glad they're doing all their things, and I'm glad that they're trying to help, but they have to at least listen to your needs and specifically how you break the situation down. And a couple of people that were on the passing list, I spoke with them prior to their exam, and they're like, Phil, this person told me I should do this person told me I should do that. I'm not sure if I should take the day off before. And throughout the entire conversation, it's like, well, you have multiple options, but it's up to you ultimately what you know what is best for you. And that's where you have to be open and willing to adjust and listen to yourself. And a lot of us maybe not even believe that we can do specifically what we know to be doing. And what do I mean by that? Like, even before I was about to make this video, I was thinking like, yo, do you even have motivation in you anymore? Are you even able to have people listen to what you have to do? And it was like, yes, I need to make sure that I push myself to limits that I don't even believe that I can do. Same with y'all. You have to push past that self-doubt, put it to the side and say, this is not what I need to be doing in order to get the results that I know I'm destined to get. I have all these skills, abilities, and techniques and strategies, but I specifically have to hone them and utilize what I know to be true within my situation. So that's my biggest push, is do not focus on what other people are doing. Don't focus on the results that other people are doing. Don't focus on people getting materials or strategies or programs that you may not know that could be helpful for you, because if you put too many things in your situation, you are then going to feel inclined and determined to get through all those strategies and techniques, even if they don't work for you. And an example of this is you may be an auditory and visual learner, and you are trying to read a book in order to get the material. And how is that not going to work? Because if you don't have any auditory cues providing the information, and you don't have a visual aid to help with the situation, you're likely not going to get the same results as if somebody was actually just a visual and tactile, because that's their learning style. And if somebody's not asking you, how do you learn, what in particular is best for you, they're not trying to gain you anything. They are trying to gain for themselves and take from you. You need to align yourself with people that are trying to build you up rather than tear you down. And if somebody is helping you and they're inherently providing negative self-talk or making you doubt yourself even more, you gotta cut it off. And that's the biggest thing that I always see, is people come already talking down on themselves or ready to give up after one or two questions. And it's like, what has happened? And it's like, well, whenever I do this or everything I do that, just trust yourself, be kind to yourself, get the job done, and know that you are 100% going to be okay, because the only thing that can determine whether you pass or fail the exam is the actual exam. So regardless of what a program says, regardless of what a person says, they are not the main orator or determinant of whether you can actually pass or fail this exam. So if somebody's telling you you should reschedule your exam based on X, Y, or Z, I would almost ask them, so where are you getting this information from, and what analysis do you have, and do you actually know the exam version I'm about to get? And if they are blown away by that question and are just trying to reiterate their own points, you almost got to be like, I almost got to cut the loss and say, like, okay, you haven't been listening or trying to help me get to the next level of where I need to be. And if you're just trying to sell me an additional thing, you're trying to gain additional services from me, that's a problem too. And my second recommendation, aligned with just being you, is you know where you have been, but you do not know where you are going. And this, as social workers and people, and when we have events happen to us, we try to say, I know what this means, or this is always going to be the case for me, so there's no point in trying. And that's why I said this video is not going to be for every single person, because if you're looking at me and saying, Phil, I don't struggle with any of this, that's okay. I am trying to speak to the people that are like, I'm not sure what I need to do, or I failed this test, or this is on the line for me, and I'm not sure where I need to go. You don't know what your next version of your exam is going to be. So that's why a lot of times when people are like, Phil, here's the breakdown of my exam. What areas should I focus on, or what do I need to particularly rectify in order to walk into the exam and pass? I asked them, what was your process of breaking down the questions? What was your comfortability with that? What were some tendencies that you had within your situation? And what are things that you need to do to improve that process? And they're often like, we didn't give me any content areas to focus on. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not a predictor. I'm not a psychic, so I can't particularly tell you what's going to be on your exam, because the only thing that we know to be true is your exam is going to be variable and it's not going to be the same thing. So if you find yourself wanting to do the things that you wish you would have done prior to your previous exam, content-wise, then you are going to lead yourself off the path, so you are not the main determinant. So if you're practicing questions or you're studying areas of content and you're like, oh my God, I'm not sure if I can do this, or I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this, or I know there was a ton of questions on this on my previous exam, or I know this was going to be on my previous exam, and then you walk into your future exam and get murdered, then you're going to obviously be like, well, crap, what was all of that for? And it's because you were trying to rectify the things in the past, but you cannot look in the past and get past your current situation in order to propel you into the future. You cannot look in the past to get past what you're currently going through. You need to look at the current situation, say, what do I have? What don't I have? What in addition do I need, if anything? Because a lot of you are just letting your previous exams and being like, yup, I failed. I need to throw all this stuff out and get this away from me, when all you really have to do possibly is sand out the bumps in the road in order to make your situation smoother and allow for you to glide across it better. But you've also gotten to your head, which I said goes back to the first point of be you. You've convinced yourself that you cannot trust yourself based on past situations. You were that person back then. Do not get that twisted. Do not forget memories, because in order to have experience, you must have experienced, but you knew who you were back then. But if you've been studying and changing processes and doing different things and getting yourself better and feeling confident, you should not let your past self pull yourself down, because your character is going to take you places that your past self or the self-doubt or negative situations inside your mind are not going to let you go. Because if you do not think you can do something, you will not be able to do it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of, if I can't do something, I will not do it. But if you tell yourself, I think I can do this, or at least say, Phil thinks I can do this based on X, Y, or Z, then it is okay, because you only need one person, one thought, one situation to change your situation. However, do not let one person, one thought, one situation that is negatively impacting you own you, because there's one person that is going to build you up, one person that is helping you get to the next level, that is trying to help you get to levels that you would not have gotten to if you did not connect with them. So don't let people poison your situation and convince yourself it's my fault. It could be the strategies and techniques that you're utilizing, not specifically you. And that's where you have to say, I know where I've been. I know the result that I did get, but that's not the result that I am going to get. I'm going to do better. I know better. And when you know better, you do better. And when you have more strategies and techniques and things inside of you and more positivity inside of you, the more positive you get. But don't get that twisted. Just because you're thinking positively or put yourself in a positive situations does not guarantee anything, because you could do everything right. You could know everything. You could know everything and get everything that you thought you would have needed and still not get to the next level. But don't let that convince you that you did not gain something from that situation. And if you're like, Phil, you don't know me, or you don't know that I regressed and got less points correct or less things correct last time than I did this time. Well, let me tell you this. Not every exam is the same, so this is your exact first time taking this version of the exam. If you got a higher score last time and you got a lower one now, don't say, wow, I've got worse. Okay, well, there are strategies and techniques that I utilize on this version of the exam that could still be valid for future exams, but I'm not going to discredit it based on something that I do not know. Why? Because you don't know the questions that you got correct or that you got incorrect, so don't try to rectify or get the answers for the questions unless you remember exactly what you specifically saw. But most people don't have photographic memories or have a video camera because they search you, and we wouldn't want you to lose your license prior to getting that, so don't even try that, because that's not a good idea. But you have to say, I'm not going to look in the past for the future answers any longer. I'm not going to look in the past and try to dig up things to rectify in order to propel me further, because that's not going to help you. But what were the strategies and techniques that worked for me? What were the things that didn't work for me? And I'm going to shed it off, and I'm going to keep the things that were good, and I'm going to drive further and gain the things that I particularly need. So you knew who you were back then, but you don't know who you are right now. And don't let one exam, one situation, one thought, one person tell you anything or dictate where you're supposed to be going. Because if you stop, that is the only time that you fail. And if you're like, Phil, this is my first time taking the exam, I'm not even sure what to expect, give yourself the opportunity to take this and gain the experience and enjoy the process. You put in the time, you put in the energy, you put in everything, so don't try to predict things or don't try to stop yourself from doing something prior to even knowing what to expect. And if you're like, Phil, this is my multiple time taking this exam, you don't know what it's like to do it, and it's like, you're right, I don't know what it takes to take this multiple times, but I do know what it takes to push past and build yourself up when you haven't succeeded in a situation, or when you're telling yourself, I shouldn't even be doing this, or what separates me, or what am I supposed to be doing, or what's this look like for me? But I do know one thing, that as long as you keep pushing forward and keep believing, you will achieve everything that you want to. It may not be on the timeline that you want, but you need to make sure that you're propelling yourself further, not looking in the past, not trying to get everything better and improve on the areas that you wish you would have done, but improving on the areas that you know are going to actually have an impact within your situation. And again, do not let one person, one thought, one situation take you out, because you are too talented and have so many skills, and you are gifted and will get to where you need to go. It just may not be on the situation that you thought would have been, and you may have to make the shift and be more fluid within the process in order to make sure that you're getting to where you need to go. And the third recommendation I have for people that are like, man, I'm feeling negative on myself, or I'm not even really sure if I can be able to do this, is you've been through worse, so why stop now? And you're like, Phil, how do you even know that I've been through worse? Because I know that this exam is not the most difficult thing that you've witnessed or been through or have experienced. And how do I know this? Because this exam is a huge proponent of your professional career, but your profession is not the only thing that dictates who you are. You've been through more, you push past, and I know because unless you're 1 year old, you've experienced X amount of years of pushing and grinding and growing to whatever you had to go through in order to get here. And that's why it's so tough, because a lot of us have gone through the school in order to improve ourselves and say, well, I've done so well in all of these other areas, and this exam is not something that's going to affirm the situation or improve or say this is all the work that you've done. Well done. This exam is simply going to say, did you show up that day? Did you show up that day? Some of you have gone through way too many things, or have gone through tougher things to let this exam drag you down or let you doubt yourself. And maybe the situations that you went through in the past are dictating your reaction to this situation, but you have to refrain. You have to get yourself around positive situations and people and resources and all these different things in order to get yourself closer to where you know you need to be. And what do I mean by this? So for those that know my story, I definitely walked into this exam and I said this exam is not going to defeat me, but I'm not going to let it defeat myself before I get in there. So I mitigated all the barriers, but this situation was a way for me to get out of the situation I previously was in order to set my life up to where it needed to go. So this exam was a way for me to be like, yo, if you do not get this done, your family, your situation, or nothing is ever going to get better for you. And that's why most of the people that rep and rock with me have been through something. You know what I mean? Like, it's most times that people rep and rock with me, it's not their first time walking into the exam. And if it is the first time, don't be deterred. My energy and passion are the same with whoever I'm interacting with, but don't let this exam convince you that you do not have skills, talents, and gifts or abilities or resilience within your soul. Because a lot of times you have to go through something in order to appreciate the things that you've gone through. So do not let this exam convince you that everything that you went through or all the accomplishments that you've had aren't worth something, but don't hang your hat on the fact that you have accomplished a lot, because the only day that matters is the day that you show up to the exam. So it doesn't matter how much content you've looked over. It doesn't matter what your grade point average is. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how strong you are. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It matters how intelligent you are that day and how you're going to navigate and break it down, keep your anxiety in control, and you're going to also develop and run or process 170 times and stay consistent. Because a lot of times when people walk into the exam, they punk themselves out and will go rogue on themselves and not even trust exactly what they did. And what do I mean by this is you may have devised a plan and process that you knew was going to work for you. You got uncomfortable, or you started telling yourself it wasn't working, and then you stepped outside of yourself. And then when you walk outside of the exam after you had failed, go, holy smokes, I didn't do any of the things that I planned that I was going to do. Or you walked in, ran your process 100% the way that you wanted to do it, and still didn't pass. And that's okay, because that is going to be a better situation than if you went in and flapped around and did a ton of different strategies and techniques. So you've been way too dedicated and been way through many situations. You've been through too many situations in order to let this one exam or one situation or one shred of self-doubt take you out. So there's not anything in this preparation that is going to determine whether you pass or fail. But knowing that this exam is exactly where you need to be and what you're going to do is going to unlock everything that you needed to do. So having that determination, being intentional, being deliberate, focusing, giving everything that you have to this. And if you did not pass, that's okay. Locking and loading, because you've been through way too many things to give up and say, I'm done trying to take this. And if your exam and license has lapsed, keep shooting your shot, because the only way that you are going to get where you are destined to be is to continue going. It may not be on the timeline. It may not be in the way that you wanted it to happen, but I guarantee that you will have the experience and knowledge and all these different techniques and strategies to walk in and kill it. And that's why I said most times that people are repping and rocking with me, it's not their first time walking into the exam, because after they start slowing things down and shedding it, all the things that aren't helpful for them, they then get more confident, or they start getting into more difficult questions than they were studying with prior. They start getting more questions incorrect, but they react differently by being open and willing to the feedback and not saying, well, I got a 4.0 on this, or I've achieved this status, or I have all of these materials. They sat down, they did exactly what they knew to be true, and they got it done. And that does not mean that if you walk in and fail that you have not done everything correct, because the version of the exam you get may determine how well you do. So if you do the same exact thing on a different set of questions, you may actually walk in and pass. So do not let one previous exam or multiple previous exams get you outside of it, because you've put in too much time, money, and energy into this process to turn around and say, well, I shouldn't do this anymore. Or I shouldn't believe in myself anymore, because the only person that can walk into the exam and pass that exam for you is you. So that's why I said, be you. Don't let anything that you've been through stop you from getting to where you know you need to be, or where you're destined to be. And the fourth thing that I have to recommend is reframe the shame and turn the pain into gain. And what do I mean by this? Because a lot of times if you failed the exam or you haven't gotten to where you thought you would be based on any identifiers, maybe it's your age, you think you're too old to get this done, maybe you've taken the exam more than your friends have, or maybe you've waited too long to take the exam, quote unquote. But the best time to take the exam is now because you're the closest that you've ever been to passing the exam. And that's where you have to push past the shame. Whatever you are shaming yourself for, let go of it, because all of those factors are not relevant within the situation. And that doesn't mean that your feelings aren't valid. Don't get that twisted. But again, you have to step aside of the butt kicking and get into the zone of where you are going to say, I am going to reflect, give myself credit, get the job done, and walk to the other side and get it done. And that's where a lot of times, way too many communities that we have in this exam preparation are either telling you black and white ways to get the job done, saying just do these strategies and techniques and everything will work out. And if you're not doing what they tell you to do, they kind of drag you down or tell you specifically what you need to do. So then you don't even start learning the processes and strategies and techniques. You just learn how they write questions and get them correct. And you don't really benefit from that, because then when you get into difficult questions, you are more jaded in the way. So embrace your pain and say, I've gone through too much, I've sacrificed too much, and I need to do exactly what I know to be true. I'm not going to let somebody take me out. I'm not going to let this one strategy or technique, or I'm not going to let myself drag myself down this path, because I have to give myself credit for showing up, being willing to do the dang thing, and getting the job done. And this is where, if this isn't your first time taking the exam, or if you failed multiple times, telling yourself, this is my first time, I need to make the adjustment. It may be painful to say that I haven't been doing exactly the right things, or that I have been guilty of these other things, but you have to be willing to look at yourself and say, today is the day that I need to be 100% me. I'm not going to let what I was doing before distract me, or I'm not going to let those previous attempts get a hold of me. So you have to reframe the shame and turn that pain into gain. And what I mean by gaining, it may not be that you're getting more questions correct. You may just be more comfortable reading the questions, or you may be less anxious when walking through the process and getting the job done, but knowing that you know yourself better than anyone else does, and you wanted to do all of these things in the past, but you have to let go of those expectations. Be willing to invest your energy and focus into the future, because the only thing that you can really change is what you're currently doing in order to change your future. You can't go back in the past and say, don't do that strategy, or don't do that program, or don't interact with this person. The only thing you can do is look at yourself and say, I did the best that I could with what I had and know. And now I know better. I'm going to do better. And I'm now going to lock and load and invest 100% into my process and what I know to be true, because I know myself. And as long as I'm true to myself, I'm going to get the true results that are meant for myself. And I'm going to get to where I need to go. So that's where it's okay to not be where you want to be, but if you're dragging yourself down and having unrealistic expectations, or living on the expectations where you once were, or letting the negative talk of other people, or letting the negative talk of yourself or the doubt of yourself take you outside of yourself, you've almost already lost. But that's why I wanted to make this video, is tell yourself you're not alone. You need to be doing the right things, and you are doing the right things. Because if you're looking at different strategies and techniques and ways that you can do to get the job done, you're already closer to passing the exam than you were when you were closed off or over encumbered by all the materials and all the processes, or all the different people that want to help you. And you're now focusing on what you know to be true and what can actually be helpful for you. So that's what I mean, is reframe all these situations. So what does that look like? Is you may not be where you want to be, but you now are doing the things that you know to be true. And you need to make sure that your focus and energy is allocated in a way that makes sense for you. Because if your friend is like, yeah, I'm studying 4 hours a day, and you don't have that in your schedule, you don't have a less likelihood of passing. You may have an equal, if not better, likelihood of passing, because they may be overstudying, quote unquote, or not studying in a way that makes sense for them. So they have to spend 4 hours on something that you're spending maybe 30 minutes or 10 minutes on because it makes sense for you, or you're not stressing yourself out and burning yourself out, because when you're stressed out and burning yourself out, you're a less favorable version of yourself, and you're not as energized and pumped up and excited and not bringing the fire and passion that you had prior. So that's why I mean reframing it and giving yourself grace in the situation and saying, I'm doing everything that I can. I may not be where I thought I would be, or I'm now in a job that I don't enjoy, or I can't move on past the job that I don't enjoy, but know that the joy that you're going to have when you can move on or when you do pass is going to be sweeter because you've been through something in order to get there. And if you try to do a new project, a new situation, or want to start a program or private practice, you now know what it feels not to get what you want immediately and know what it feels to go through adversity. And now you have that experience because you have been experienced, and you'll be able to sustain and turn that pain into gain and become better than you would have been if you would have accomplished it immediately and then met resistance later. So we go through everything that we needed to go through in order to prepare us to get into the situations that we are destined to be in. So no experience that you've been through is a mistake. Of course, there may be factors that you wish you wouldn't have done, but now that you've been through it, you tend to change or restrict those situations that you would have otherwise engaged in the past. And the fifth strategy or technique that I have is to allow yourself grace and cool off time. And what do I mean by this? So in addition to providing yourself grace, having a cool off time, and what do I mean by this is you don't do things 100% of the time. And a cool off time could simply be giving yourself a break from something in order to feel better recharged or have a better focus on something. And what does this look like? So let's say you're studying a topic and you don't really feel comfortable with it. Rather than driving it home and railing on the gas pedal to get it in your mind, taking a break from it in order to get into a better mind frame and cooling into the situation. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or feeling like you aren't into the process, doing a little bit of the process, allowing that cool off time, so that way when you walk into the situation the second time, you're more focused, you're more energized, and you're more able to do specifically what you thought would have been better than if you would have just wailed on it, rammed it through, because then you might not have been able to retain it, because when you're in great deals of stress, you're not thinking in your frontal cortex, you're thinking in your limbic system, which is fight, flight, freeze, or submit category, and you're not living the best situation that you could have been in. So it's okay to take a break. It's okay to not burn yourself down. It's okay to do all the things that you know that you need to be doing. So that's where it goes back to my first point of be you. Because the biggest way you kill joy or kill all the things that you've been through is compare it to somebody else that you feel is doing better. I call that the highlight reel, because not everything that people are going through do you know what's going on. You may feel like, wow, that person did it. It was so easy for them. Or, wow, it's so great that they did that. Well, they may be not having the same view of their situation, and they may be miserable, and they may not have wanted the situation, or they now get on the other side and they don't actually enjoy putting in all of that, or they wish they would have been where they wishing they were at now. So, of course, giving yourself that cool off time and giving yourself that credit. And that's why I always say my approach tends to be non-traditional, because I would rather have you practice self-care than to do all of these things and force yourself into situations. So practice what you preach with your clients of do self-care, take time off, make sure you're recharged, don't force yourself into situations, have boundaries with yourself. Have boundaries in situations, and knowing that you're doing everything that you know that you need to do for yourself to get to where you know that you will be. But if you're not in the best version of yourself or best form, so you're not taking care of yourself or you're not practicing the self-care, when you do show up to the opportunity, you're going to have less favorable results than if you would have took it easy, given yourself the credit, and gotten to the other side. So that's what I mean is providing yourself grace, because you don't have to get every single question right. You don't have to know every single thing. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing, because you've been uniquely gifted and talented and programmed and put on a path that was meant specifically for you, and it may look different than other people. It may be rougher right now, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to smooth out and propel you in the right direction of where you're meant to be. So keep the faith in yourself, but don't burn yourself down and don't feel like you have to be 100% okay 100% of the time. But making sure that you're 100% authentically you, because the more that you become other people, or the more that you do things that other people tell you should do, and you don't actually want to do it, you lose who you actually are, and it's a less favorable version of yourself. So if you're feeling confused, or you're feeling burnt out, or you're not sure where you want to go, and that's contributing to your negative self-talk of like, well, you're never going to be good enough, or you're not going to get this done, or of course you don't know this. Why are you getting this stuff wrong? This person thinks you're dumb. But giving yourself the credit and saying that person may be further along than I am. They may be more comfortable in this situation. They may know more in this situation, but that doesn't mean that I can't get there or that I won't still be able to pass the exam, because I know myself and I'll get the job done and be able to handle everything that I know to be true. So again, giving yourself that credit, giving yourself that slack, giving yourself that grace in order to be grateful and content. So be content with what you know to be true, rather than forcing it, rather than pushing yourself, rather than doing all these other things. But at the end of the day, trust in yourself. And if you're experiencing this negative self-talk or doubt, providing yourself the credit, providing yourself positive affirmations, giving yourself rewards in the situation, because that may be why you're feeling burnt out as well, as you don't feel fulfilled or like you're accomplishing anything. So setting small goals and setting small trajectories for yourself will be helpful in order to keep yourself motivated and pumped up to be able to walk into the exam, kick it directly in the chest, get the job done, and do exactly what you know to be true. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Like I said, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you guys that's repping and rocking with me. So if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, punch that thumbs up button. So the more likes it gets, the more people that can find it and discover it and can benefit as well. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the little bell notification so that way you'll know about the free study group that's going to be happening in about a week or so. So if you've been watching it for this long, you have a heads up on that. And from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you guys. Hopefully to see you in individual tutoring, the Sunday study groups. And if you need anything, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. I love every single one of you guys. Take care of your guys' self. Be safe. I'll see you guys in the next video, guys, and peace out, guys.